York to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
How you doing this morning?
I'm good. What's up, y'all? It's good to be here.
Thanks for once again.
In person.
Yes. Last time we met was not such a positive situation, right?
Tough. We
were dealing with families being displaced out of their building that burned down.
Twin Parks in January.
Yeah. Since we brought it up, how are those families, and how did everything kind of, land for those families in Twin Parks?
It took us a while, but we were able to relocate about 2/3 of the building, 150 families that wanted to relocate. We found them permanent homes. Our biggest challenge was finding brand new 2 and 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. Many large families. About 1/3 of the families remained. They wanted to stay at Twin Parks. So we're actually working with management and the landlord on doing a Thanksgiving turkey distribution for the 70 residents that still live at Twin Parks.
Got it. Is there anything that us as, just people who live in and around New York City can do to support those families?
Oh, absolutely. They still need a lot of counseling and support. Definitely financial contributions are always great. We still have organizations like GYO and Muslim Network on the ground.
Okay.
It is a working, class family building, so a lot of the families are back to work, but many of them are still traumatized by January 9th.
And for the families who did stay, Vanessa, what about the all the damage that was done? Was that addressed, or is it completely safe for the building, for the people who wanted to stay in the building?
So there's been a lot of work done on the building, with the exception of the 3rd floor that recently started because of a lot of permits and regulations. The 3rd floor was completely decimated. That was the origin of the fire. So those families, we believe, will never come back. So the 3rd floor is pretty much wiped out for a couple months. We are starting work now on the 3rd floor, but there's been a lot of remediation work done because you still had the stench of smoke and fire. So we got everyone air purifiers and humidifiers so that they could breathe clean air, and many of them are just getting additional services. We gave out tons of money. We relieved the rent for several months so that families didn't feel the burden of paying rent again. But now we're trying at this point to get back to normal, and what we want to do, elected officials, on January 9th of 2023, we want to have a big ceremony to recognize and honor the 17 neighbors we lost, but also really recognize a lot of the things we've done in the year that this has happened.
When we had you on before, I'm vocal about, obviously understanding the politics of a city like New York.
A lot of politics.
Yep. Where you have the individual who owns that building.
Right.
And who is the landlord, owner of that building, owns a lot of buildings around the city.
Yes.
And had been getting complaints about what was going on there at Twin Parks and hadn't rectified the situation. Come to find out, this individual, I don't recall his name, is also a big donor to the current mayor, Eric Adams. As we're having this convo today, how is the Adams administration doing balancing business and people, corporate partnerships? Because that's something that, while frustrating, it's something we have. It's a real
reality.
It's a real reality of making sure that business owners in this city are held accountable for keeping things right for the people, but also the ability to do business, right? And it's a reality that they make large donations to people's political action committees or, campaigns and things like that. How is that balance going with this particular situation, and in general, you as someone who is the Bronx Borough president, watching new buildings get made, affordable housing, who's getting access to that affordable housing, just all of the politics of it.
So one thing I recognized when the fire hit on January 9th was, while this was one particular building, I know that government neglect and landlord neglect is rampant throughout our city.
There you go.
And there were many families that were living in similar conditions as the families in Twin Parks. So they were not getting sufficient heat. They're using ovens and space heaters that are faulty and malfunctioning, just as the families in Twin Parks. So that's one thing I recognize. So after the fire hit on January 9th, we work with Mayor Adams and the administration to do a couple of things, to have an inner coordination of agencies. The Department of Buildings, HPD, and FDNY all worked in a silo. Everyone came out, did inspections, but no one talked to each other. So 311 complaints come in, tenants call about smoke alarms, fire detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, no heat, no hot water, but no one's working together. So the mayor signed an executive order to force the agencies to actually share data. If an FDNY inspector goes out, tell DOB what you're doing, tell HPD what you're doing, so that we're not overlapping because we have a lot of buildings in this city and not enough inspectors, not enough city workers to go out and respond to 311 calls. So that happened this year. But we also passed legislation to force landlords to do better, to make sure that they're following up on 311 calls. Self-closing doors, guess what? They need to close. And in this particular fire, the self-closing door did not work. And that's why the fire was allowed to escalate up to the top floor. And that's why we had so many fatalities. So it's a hard balance, but government has to do better, and so do landlords, especially landlords that own multiple buildings, because a lot of our building stock are aging. They're old. You have old elevators, old roofs. You know, you have a lot of old infrastructure. So as much as we can, through more investments in capital, we have to transform these buildings. We have to set better regulations and make sure that landlords are following the rules. Whether you give contributions to elected officials or not, that should never matter. The reality is people deserve these services. And what I worry about now, this is November and it's the winter season now. So we had a fire in Castle Hill a few weeks ago, and it was due to be an electric malfunction using heat. And we had a family, we had a mom that lost a 22-year-old son, 13-year-old son, 9-year-old son, and a 15-month-old granddaughter. And it was because of an electricity issue. And so we need to stop these types of things. We need a lot of education, FDNY. We need to do cultural sensitivity, because many of the families are immigrant families, and they're coming here with different practices and not really understanding how to live in New York City. So we need to educate them and let them know how they can live, how you can check your carbon monoxide smoke alarm. We need to do home installations. That's something I would love to work with Hot 97 on. Let's go out to these homes. Let's install carbon monoxide detectors ourselves and make sure they work, and also give families information on evacuation procedures. What do you do in the event of a fire, right? We talk about close the door, but in that split-second moment, you don't remember everything you've learned because you're running for your life.
That's right.
And that happens every single day in our city. And unfortunately, most of the most horrific fires in New York City have been in the Bronx with immigrant families, and we need to do better. And that's my job as borough president, and I will force this administration to do better, to pump money into the system, to make sure we upgrade our systems around roofs and electricities and elevators, and make sure we have modernized buildings, because a lot of our buildings are old.
So when you say you want Hot 97's help, you don't want like me, Lauren Rosenberg, installing these things. That's not what you're saying, because I don't.
No, we might need a professional.
Yeah, because we have great engineers
We'll
too.
go.
We'll go.
Yeah,
I'll even put up some money. We'll get the money.
That would be great.
if that
We
helps.
need it.
But I just want to make sure that it's installed correctly, because
Yeah.
Rosenberg can't change a tire.
I changed a fuse, remember?
Oh, you did?
Maybe I should be doing
Laura, what do you?
No. I'll leave
You
it to
know,
the
you
professional.
learn. I was assembling beds at Somos in Puerto Rico for families that were affected by Hurricane
And you
Fiona.
figured it out.
And we figured it out. And the beds were stable, sturdy, and, you know, we're good. You learn.
One more thing I want to ask you related to housing. A lot of people now are seeing like ridiculous rent increases.
We have 1 million rent-stabilized housing in New York City. Most of it are Mitchell-Lama developments. We have co-ops as well as rentals. That is government protected. The state of New York, the state legislature passed the Rent Stabilization Act back in 2019 to protect those 1 million residents. But for everyone else, it's really subjected to market. And that's where the challenges are coming in. So if you have residents and New Yorkers out there that are living in homes that are not protected by rent stabilization, by government subsidies, like vouchers, like SEPs and FEPs and other things like that, that protect you, I want them to reach out to elected officials, their community board, so that we can try to help. We also have programs like SCREE and DRE, Senior Citizens Rent Increase Exemption and Disability Rent Increase Exemption. They protect seniors and those with disabilities, if you're eligible, from a rent increase. So your rent is capped at the level it is when you have your lease agreement. When your lease expires, you apply again, and we protect you every single year. We need to make sure seniors are applying 62 years and over, as well as those with disabilities. There are programs out there, but many New Yorkers do not know about it. So I need all of you to help us amplify that and make sure that people know about these programs. Calling 311, going on Housing Connect. A lot of people want brand new apartments. We're building a lot of new apartments, but not at the rate that we need to. 60,000 families in homeless shelters, thousands of asylum seekers that have come here since April. Many of them are school-age children in our public schools. We have a lot on our plate. So the best thing we need to do is get people to apply. If you're eligible, apply for new housing. But if you are living in rent-stabilized housing now, your landlord is not doing what they need to do, call 311. We will get you a lawyer. If you're facing eviction, we will help you, because the worst thing that we can have families going through right now is an eviction when they're on the brink of losing their homes in the middle of the winter. They will fall into the homelessness and shelter system, and we don't want that.
This is the amazing Vanessa Gibson. She is the BX Borough president. You've been on the job how long now?
11 months.
11 months. How's it been going?
It's been good. It's very busy. Keeps me on my toes. I love it. It's one of the best positions ever. I get to effectuate change, impact the lives of residents and families in the Bronx. I get to represent the birthplace of hip-hop.
There you go.
And we're doing amazing things. I want to say yesterday we opened up the very first ever Bronx Children's Museum in the Bronx, the heart of the South Bronx, right next to the future home of the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
we are just doing amazing things. But think about the global empire this creates from an artistic perspective, cultural education, the intersection of hip hop. Think about hip hop pioneers that have blazed the trail for so many of our young up and coming artists. But think about the economic development impact. Think about the jobs, right? That's what we need. We need to create pathways to the middle class for every family, because so many of our people, Black and Latino families, are rent burdened. They're struggling every day to meet rent, to put food on the table. That's why during this season of Thanksgiving, it's so important to have all of your voices to give back. I was with New York Giants players this week in Castle Hill, and they were giving back. We need to use our blessings to bless other people, to let them know that they are not alone. All hope is never lost, and better and brighter days lie ahead.
Well, that's why we're up here at Tracy Towers today. We're giving out Thanksgiving turkeys and dinner. Eat clean, bro. Also, Life Camp NYC, Erica Ford Bishop, the whole Peacemobile, and the whole Hot 97 family. Vanessa, it's always great to talk to you.
Always
Thank
great.
you.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa.
You're always welcome.
Appreciate
Boogie Down Bronx.
BX.
BX.